so that way those people who weren't able to make it can watch it at a later time. So welcome everybody. Our session today, I'm gonna mute those of you who okay. Our session today is called Working Together. It's a lot about how we work with each other, volunteers, kids, staff that may sometimes drive us a little bit crazy or don't necessarily fit the mold of what we're looking for, and maybe some tips and tricks that can help us with the difficult or maybe not so similar people that we meet in our lives. It's pretty general. It's hard to pinpoint those specific issues that you might have. So I'm going to talk in a very generalized way, but feel free to make comments or share experiences that you've had that can help others possibly to be able to once again work together with some of those difficult people. As you see on the slide that you're looking at, we do need a pen and probably a piece of paper for this session. So if you don't have one, be sure to grab one. There's going to be like a little chart you're going to fill out on a sheet of paper so that you can help identify your personality. And so you'll want that handy for when we get to that section. All right, so we'll get started here. So first of all, when you're talking about working with other people and talking about your personality, other people's personality, it's important to remember a few things. This first one is that you need to know yourself in order to know others. If you don't know who you are, it's really hard for you to identify maybe what drives you crazy or what maybe frustrates you about other people if you're not already knowing what's going on with yourself. It's also important to know that as you look at your personality or other people's personality, we all have similar traits, but the level of where we display those traits may be different. Some of us may be very, very organized, while other people have organizational skills. They may be a little bit lacking for some of us who might be very organized. Some people are very outgoing, and that may be true. All of us have the ability to form relationships, but some of us might be a little bit shyer or harder to form those relationships. So just knowing that all those personality traits are there, but we display them at different levels. Also, as we go through this, we're going to put you in a box and define who you are. But that doesn't mean that that's the way you always act or that box is just who you are. It's just a generalization, and that's how all personality type tests work or all of these kind of things work, is that really if you're in that box, it doesn't mean that if we say that you're a really organized person, you always have to be organized. If you're super outgoing and you like a crowd, that you always have to be in a crowd. It's just a definition of kind of helping us to see who people are. And the last one is that we need to remember that everyone has strengths and weaknesses, and working together is an important piece to complete that puzzle. And sometimes we have to take a step back and remember that in order to deal with the people in our lives who give us those headaches. So you may have taken one of these millions of personality tests. A lot of them may sound familiar to you. We've probably all heard of Myers-Briggs. They give you letters that kind of define you. One that I'm really familiar with and I've taught, which if you're interested in your county and doing one, we can do a True Colors or a color matrix. It's a little bit more in-depth, but not quite as in-depth as the Myers-Briggs. There's something called a DISC assessment, the human whole brain, or Herman, that should say Herman whole brain. And then another one that I found that's pretty popular is Ingram. So all of those are basic personality tests. And if you have a chance to get on the web or, attend one of those classes, one of my favorites on here is the Herman whole brain. I did that with a group of people and it was just eye-opening for me. So if you have a chance to do those, I highly suggest that you do them. But tonight we're going to do a real fun, very simple, very basic one. So hopefully you all can see your screen. It may be a little small if you're on your cell phone, but if you're on your computer, you should be able to see the screen. So what you need to do is use your pen to kind of complete this. I'm sorry that you don't have it in front of you, but you can just make little marks and then add them up. You're going to add up the columns. So basically what you want to do is, for number one, pick the one that's most like you and put a 4, then a 3 for the next one, a 2, and then a 1 for the one that's least like you. So you're going to look at likes authority, enthusiastic, sensitive feelings, likes instructions, and you're going to do a 4 to 1 on that. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to pause my video and I'm going to turn my mic off, and I'm going to let you guys take about 5 to 10 minutes to get this done. If you have a chance, if you want to tell me that you're done, that's fine, but I'm just going to pause and let you work on that. And I'm going to I haven't done this yet either, so I'm going to work on it a little bit on my own, so that then we'll come back and we'll talk a little bit about what this means and how we can help define what this means for other people also. All right, just keep working. If you haven't had a chance yet, you can go down the columns. It looks like somebody's writing on here. That's pretty cool. I didn't know that was possible. So nifty. Not sure who that is, but something new I learned on Zoom. So very cool. But if you get a chance, you're just going to add the columns down. So you should have 10 numbers you're adding together, then 10 more numbers, then 10 more numbers, then 10 more numbers. We'll just take another about 2 to 3 minutes, see if you can complete that as best you can. All right, for the sake of time, I'm probably just going to keep going. But if you want to keep working on this, or at least you kind of have an idea of where most of your 4s, your 3s, your 2s, and your 1s tend to fall, because my guess is you probably see a pattern. So let's talk a little bit about what these numbers mean. If you want to do this again or you didn't get it finished, I'm recording this and the PowerPoint will be available online, so you can look at this later also. So if we look at this, what we find if your numbers were column 1, and I don't know how to take the stuff off. I'm going to stop sharing my screen and see if that will help take that off. So I apologize for those of you who are watching who maybe, okay, so it looks like someone else cleared it off for me. So whoever it is that's writing, I appreciate that. So thank you. Okay, so if your highest score is column number 1, we're going to use animals because this is 4-H, so that makes sense, right? But we're going to call you a lion personality. So lion personalities, my guess is a lot of our club leaders, our 4-H council presidents, some of our 4-H council staff, our 4-H extension staff are going to be lions. These are people who like to lead. They're very good at making decisions and they're very goal-oriented, which would make a great club leader. They enjoy challenges, difficult assignments, and the opportunity for advancement. They're thinking of a goal and they step to reach it. Sometimes they can be a little aggressive and competitive, and we probably all know who those people are in our lives. And they have to learn not to be too bossy or take charge of others' affairs. So when we look at the lion overall, let's look at their strengths, weaknesses, and their limitations. So their strengths is that they're goal-oriented, they're strong-directed. That'd be a great person to have in your club. So if you're not a lion, if you fit in a different category and you're a club leader, you may want to seek out those people that fit in that category. You can look through that list later that are here, because then they can help you maybe to direct some of those things where you struggle. Their weaknesses, and this may be where we want to be very careful, is that they can probably be argumentative. So think about those people in your lives that fit in that category and how they sometimes purposely cause confrontation. And sometimes they are too dictatorial, which basically means that they tell you what to do all the time. So all of us are thinking, hey, my spouse is totally a lion, right? Isn't that how that works? So the limitations is that they don't understand that their directions hurt others and they have a hard time expressing their feelings. So I think this is the thing to remember. If you have a lot of lions to deal with, and those are the people that maybe frustrate you, is that they don't maybe know that they're hurting your feelings. So you have to be very vocal with them and let them know, like, please don't say things like that, or please don't address me that way, because it really hurts my feelings, and because they just don't understand that. So if you're in the second category, you are an otter. How cute is that little guy? So some things about otters is they're super social. So they like people. And so we find a lot of 4-H leaders who also fit in this category because my guess is that you volunteer because you like to be around people and you like kids and you like to help them. So they enjoy being popular and influence and motivating others. Another reason why you might become a club leader is because you want to have that kind of a role. Nothing wrong with that. Some of us tend to shy away from that, but that's definitely the kind of people we need. They can sometimes hurt. They can sometimes be hurt when people don't like them, and so that can sometimes be hard, especially if they're dealing with a lion who could care less about people's feelings. They have lots of friends, but not a lot of deep friendships. So those are the people that have their 1,200 Facebook friends, but maybe know or hang out with 2 of them. They love to be a little bit goofy, and so you can probably think of kids in your 4-H club who fit in that otter category who would drive you a little crazy. They're notorious for a messy room, so your kids may fit in this category. They like to hurry and finish a job, and they also are like Tigger from Winnie the Pooh, so kind of all over the place, bouncing around. I think I married an otter who has 37 different car parts pulled apart in our garage and never quite gets to any of them. So they can be a little bit frustrating too. So let's look at their strengths and weaknesses. The strength is that they are people. They want to be around people. They will do just about anything. They're super open and they're super positive. So a weakness for them is that they may talk too much and you just want them to stop. And they're too permissive, which they kind of let everybody walk all over them. Their limitations is that they don't remember past commitments and they don't follow through with discipline. So just some kind of things. If you have a otter that may say, oh yeah, I'll do that, but then never ever follow through because they're just too worried about the here and now and the people around them. But they may be great to have in your 4-H club and they'd be great leaders to engage. If you're a lion, you may need otter people to help people feel better, bring the right sodas, those kind of things to the party. If you're in column 3, you are a golden retriever. So this is my lowest one. I have a struggle with being, I guess, loyal is maybe how this works. But if you look at your golden retriever, they're super good at making friends, and their friends are going to be deeper friendships, not just those 1,200 Facebook friends. They probably have 500 and they're super good friends with a bunch of them. They're super loyal. They're great friends to have. They don't like big changes and they really want security. So this can be some of our 4-H leaders who maybe have been around for a while and really like the structure that comes with the 4-H program. And as the 4-H program moves forward, this may be super hard for them to accept or to understand. They're super caring and super sensitive, which also doesn't add to the not liking change. So I think sometimes these golden retriever personalities take change personally, which can sometimes be difficult. They have deep relationships, but usually only a couple of friends. We talked about that. They want to be loved by everyone. They look for appreciation. And so that's important. If you're a club or project leader, really think about if you have these golden retriever type personalities in your 4-H club, how do we make sure that they get rewarded, whether that be a thank you note from kids or it be you shaking their hand, sending them a note, getting them a cupcake. Just remember that some people really need that in life. And so they may be frustrated with you or not get along with you because you didn't do that rewarding for them. They work best with limited situations and steady work patterns. And okay, so the next slide has the next information, but let's look at their strengths, weaknesses, and limitations. Their strengths is that they're accommodating, calm, and affirming. So think about how important it is to have that kind of a person in your 4-H club. So look for those retrievers that can kind of help, especially if you're a higher strung person, to keep you grounded. So maybe make these kind of people your friends. Their weaknesses is that they're indecisive, they're indifferent, unable to express emotions, and too soft on people. So they kind of let things slide a lot and just kind of, don't worry about anything, that kind of too laid back person. The limitations are seeing they need to be more assertive and they need to hold people accountable, which they're not doing. So if you're a club leader and you are a golden retriever, there's some issues here because we need to work on holding people accountable for the things they say they're going to do. And the last one that we can look at is the beaver. So this is the 4th column, if you filled out that beginning part. Our beavers are organized. They think that there's a right way to do everything and they want to do it exactly that way. And so I think that sometimes these are the personalities that drive us a little bit crazy because For those of us who don't fit in the beaver column, there's lots and lots of solutions to the problem. And for them, it's black and white and they see one way to do things. And so we often get frustrated with them because we want things done a certain way or we want things done in a certain way and they've already decided it's going to be done the way that they want to do it. The great news about them is they're super creative. They want to solve problems. And they also do not like sudden changes. So once again, in the world of 4-H recently, that's probably been a struggle for our beavers, is that we've been changing things a little bit just to accommodate the changing youth that we work with. And they need reassurance. So similar to the golden retriever, these are the people who need to be rewarded for what they do and praised for their work. So if you're not a praiser, and you're not a person who probably remembers to thank every single person that does something for you, the beavers and the golden retrievers in your life need that. So try to work on figuring out how to accommodate them, and that can make relationships that you have with them much more pleasant. So the strengths of the beaver is that they have high standards and they like order and they like respect. They may have unrealistic expectations of themselves and others. They may think almost too perfect, which can cause a lot of problems in their life because they want you to do something that maybe you can't do. And they have a problem seeing optimistic sides of things, and they're definitely not flexible. So what does that mean in the world of 4-H? So what do we do with our 4-H volunteers who are lions? The pros is that these lions in your club are going to accomplish things. They're going to be willing to make improvements needed, and they're not easily offended. So once again, if you can think of those strong personalities in your 4-H club, know that when you tell them that something hurt your feelings or something is not right, they're not going to get offended by it. So you can have honest and open conversations with them. So don't hold back and let people know how you're feeling when you do get frustrated, and that may help to make that relationship better. They also have so the cons, what's wrong with having our 4-H volunteer lions? They have high expectations for your ability. They want you to perform and achieve. So if you're a leader who just wants to dedicate, an hour here and there, lions don't understand that. And so we need to be very cautious to help them better understand what your limitations and what your willingness to do with the 4-H program are. And they're not going to give you a lot of feedback. So for those of you who need that reassurance or need that praise, it's not going to come from these people. So when someone doesn't tell you you did a great job, no, they probably thought it. They're just not the kind of people that speak that kind of language. They're also not going to help you when you need some soft skills, like the pat on the back. If you need that ability to help with speaking or dealing with others, they're just not the people that are going to help you with that. So don't look to those 4-H volunteers for that kind of a skill set. So what do we do with our 4-H volunteers who are fit in the otter category? So the great thing about them is they have a knack for influencing others. So if you want to get this is a great person to run a food stand or a community service project, because they are going to get things done. They're going to make sure that you have tons of help, that people are there because they're going to influence others to be there. They also know everyone in the community, so they're going to be the ones you want to be out there and be the face of your 4-H program. And they're going to build strong alliances and rally your troops to get going. So if you are a 4-H club leader or project leader, find these people in your world to help you raise money, to help you get people to do things, to help you get donations. Otters are great at doing that kind of work. The cons is that they don't stay focused. So you really need to give them one task and give it to them. Say, by next week, I need you to do this. They do it right away. Otherwise, they'll say they'll do it, and then you'll never see them again until they show up at the next meeting. They completely forgot you asked them to do something. So once again, they lack the commitment to follow through, and they might actually verbally attack you because they don't realize that they're doing it. So when you say, did you get that done? They're like, well, you didn't tell me to do that, because they completely forgot that happened. And they really just wanted to do it back then because it sounded really cool, but then they don't follow through. So you have to kind of keep on the otters in your world. So 4-H volunteers as golden retrievers, what's great about them? They're going to take an interest in you as a person. And we, if you haven't watched all of the different trainings we do, there's one called Belonging. And I think that in 4-H, this is a really important aspect. Kids are looking for a place to belong. So getting to know them personally and who they are is a really important thing. And so if you can find golden retrievers to help maybe be part of your welcoming committee, to keep people there, these are the kind of people who are going to be great at that. They'll also be open to hear from you and take your opinion into consideration, and they're great at communicating. So if you have a really this is one of the number one problems we see in the 4-H program, is that people say that we don't communicate well. So if you can find a golden retriever in your 4-H club, they would be a great person to help to spread the word about what's going on and make sure that everybody feels welcome and everybody knows what's happening. The bad thing is that they need to relate to get things done. Like they want to know all the information so they can get things done. However, they're going to procrastinate to the very end in order to do that, and they don't like conflict. So if someone writes a nasty message on the Facebook page that they're in charge of, it could hurt them personally, and so they take things like that to heart. So it's kind of, you want to find them to do things, but then you have to be careful because they may be offended by some of the things that happen based on their role. And then the last one is our beavers. The great things about them is they're going to do great work for you. So if you need someone to help you make barn decorations for your for the fair, they're going to get some really cool stuff done. And they're creative and they're really kind of meticulous. They can stay focused without getting distracted, and they're going to learn from their past mistakes. So if something didn't work out, they're going to make it better. However, it's going to take them forever to get it done. So because they're meticulous and because that they want to get things done perfectly, it's going to take them a really long time. So if you want a project done by a beaver, don't say, hey, can you get it done for me next week? You need to kind of prep them for it. They're going to nitpick everything. And so you may have people in your club who don't like anything that you do. And you may be that person. You may be a beaver, and that's part why you do that. And they don't want to take risks. They're very safe and they want to keep things the way they are. So here's a really cool chart that kind of explains all of this. Our beavers, which that's kind of a sad looking beaver. He kind of looks like a squirrel. They're the how people. They're thorough, they're goal oriented, and they clash a lot with the people that are in the bottom right-hand quadrant. Oh, wait, which are otters, yes. So the beavers and the otters, they just don't understand each other, and the golden retrievers and the lions just don't understand each other. So beavers and lions are task-oriented, and golden retrievers and otters are people-oriented. Lions and otters are verbal people, and our beavers and our golden retrievers are a little bit more cautious and quiet people. So this is kind of a good way to maybe help us put people that we deal with into categories and help us understand that if you have a golden retriever in your life and they drive you crazy, it might be because you're a lion and you're really focused on being direct in the what, and they just don't have the ability to do that. So something to do at another next club meeting or maybe at your office staff party is use the PowerPoint will be posted online. You can use the slide that we all did our little find out what we were, and you can kind of talk about this and help figure out why that one person may drive you a little crazy. It may be because they're in the opposite quadrant of you and they really just focus and work in a different way. So then the last, maybe the people you know don't fit into any of those categories, and maybe they fit here. The porcupine. Once again, animal themed 4-H. The porcupine represents the perfect metaphor for that toxic personality in your life. Some people approach you like quills at a porcupine back, and they wound everybody that comes in contact with them. And I think this, and the quote at the bottom is, much like their cousin the skunk, they live an unapproachable life. So think about those people that really just you can't work with, and it may be because they have a toxic or porcupine personality. So this next slide has tons and tons and tons of info on it, but I'm just going to kind of, you can take a few seconds to look over. I'm not going to read it, but they're really the people in your life who have those personality traits that really just drive you crazy. You either have to walk on eggshells around them, you just can't deal with them. They really are just there to find fault in everything that you do. And the reason this happens is normally because it's a pattern of behavior that they've been able to get away with. So difficult people are difficult because they've created a pattern and they've been successful with that pattern. So they keep everyone in their lives off balance, and it allows them to be in control. So what do we do with those porcupines in our life? And these are just suggestions. They won't always work, but just some things to think about as you think about that personality that's just toxic in your life. And they could be a 4-H person, it could be a parent, it could be even a 4-H member. So stay calm, remain calm, be calm. I think calm is the key word here, because they're going to come at you with their toxic, nasty personality, and the issue is don't engage them. When they talk to you, be sure that you get the opportunity to define your needs. When they're yelling at you or telling you what they feel, make sure that you're able to say, this is what I need from you, and if you can't give me that, then maybe this isn't going to work. Or I need you to do this, this, and this in order for your child to be successful in the 4-H program. You just really have to let them know what you want, because they're not going to really care, but you have to be able to say that out loud. And then keep communicating those needs to them, and maybe writing it down, sharing it with them in a letter so that they can then reflect on it when they're calmer. That could be a way to help them. Listen to them, not just superficially, but really listen, because sometimes you'll find that they have some good ideas, or they just want to be heard and don't even need an answer. I get a lot of these phone calls as the volunteer specialist here in the office. There's a lot of volunteers out there who just need to be heard and really want to be listened to. So a lot of times people will call and tell me some of the issues that are going on in their county, and we work through trying to figure out how to solve them. Brainstorm with them. So that's what we do, is we talk about what are some of the solutions that we can explore in order to get to a positive end result. And making a porcupine part of your solution is going to help you a lot in the long run, because then they have ownership in it. So as a porcupine and yourself, evaluate the alternatives. Will this work? Will this work? Will this work? And why not? And if one doesn't work, what's the next thing we're going to try with you? And then when that's done, reevaluate and figure out if you can come up with another solution if the ones that didn't work. I think the key when working with the difficult people in your life is helping to make them understand the way you want to do things, and making them think that it's their own way to do things. Sounds a little bit manipulative, but it really helps to get everybody on the same page if we can all think it's our own idea in order to solve a problem. So then let's get really specific with some of those porcupines. There's the complainer, this super agreeable person, the negativist, the silent unresponsive, the indecisive, the hostile, and the know-it-all. So as you think about those people in your life, you can probably put 1 or 2 people into each one of these categories. So let's first look at that complainer. So the complainer, they feel powerless in the management of their own lives. They have ideas of how things ought to be done, and they see a sense of injustice and they're not done the way they think they should be done. They persistently complain about others. And of course, it's nobody's fault. It's not their fault. It's everyone else's fault. So as a person, what can you do to deal with the complainers in your life? Once again, listening attentively. This is the hardest part, because how awful is it to listen to someone complain constantly? But if you can listen attentively, you may be able to pick out a few of those things that can help you deal with the complaint they have, or how to make them at least, I don't know if you can ever make them happy, but you can at least make them okay with the end result. Be prepared to interrupt and take control of the situation, because they're just going to keep going and rambling and rambling. While you're interrupting them, switch to a problem-solving mode. As they're complaining, maybe say, well, let's try this, and then actually just go do it versus worrying about coming up with a bunch of other solutions. Change their train of thought to something productive. So get them off the track of complaining, and that may help you to solve the problem with your complaining friends, or 4-H leaders, or parents, or members. Then we got the opposite, the super agreeable, almost to the point of being annoying. So they have a need to be liked by others. And that's usually why they're super agreeable. They don't want to be in conflict, and they don't want to lose your acceptance. And when they don't agree with you, you think that they're cool with it, but really they just aren't. And they will in the end let you down because they didn't agree with what you said. So what can we do with those super agreeable people? Be honest and non-threatening. They are afraid, and you don't want to. They don't want to hear the truth. So you just have to be really careful with them. Don't allow them to make unrealistic commitments, because they're not going to follow through. Similar to that otter personality, be very careful when that super agreeable says, "Oh yeah, I'll do that. Okay, and then they're not going to actually follow through. They often use their humor to hide the truth. So if they're trying to be funny, know that there's probably something deeper there that you want to try to get to make sure that they do follow through and that they actually do agree with you. So one of the ones that drives me the most crazy is the negativists in our life who are always thinking that things are terrible. So they will object to everything you say, no matter if it's the greatest thing in the world. They assert whatever that you propose is not going to work. It's impossible. I think this happens a lot as new leaders join a 4-H program. You may have great ideas, and those veteran leaders may put everything down because we tried that 10 years ago and it didn't work, or we tried that 3 years ago and it didn't work. You have a new set of kids, a new set of people, a new set of circumstances. So if you're that negativist in the club, really think about the fact that trying new things or retrying things that didn't work before aren't going to be the most terrible thing in the world. They may not work again, but at least we're trying something. And they could deflate your optimism. So they may be the ones who, especially as we have new leaders join, these are the people that make them want to quit because they feel like nobody really cares about what they have to say and no one's listening to them. So what can we do? Avoid getting into their attitude. Don't let them be negative. Kind of find other things for them to do. Don't propose a bunch of solutions because they're just going to tell you they're terrible. And try being the devil's advocate. What if we did this, or what if we did this? My biggest suggestion to clubs and 4-H educators who have a lot of negativists in their program is find something different for them to do. Give them a job that maybe doesn't deal with working with people. Maybe they can help be your accountant, or maybe they can help just with the paperwork or the behind the scenes work. So if you have some super negative people in your 4-H club, let's retool their work. Maybe they're really good at raising money, so they can maybe go out and do the schedule for the fundraising, but they maybe aren't the ones who are out there dealing with the public. So retool what they're doing to make their role still valuable, but maybe not upfront and personal. Then you've got the ones that are super hard to read, the silent unresponsive. They act like not responding when asked to commit. They avoid unpleasant interpersonal situations. They're a weird type of aggression, refusing not to talk, and they're good. They look like they're good listeners, but they aren't. They're just not responsive to what you're doing. So what do you do with those people? Ask open-ended questions, not yes or no, so make them talk. And then you can also get them to participate by calling them out. And so this may work with some of your 4-H kids. They may be a silent responsive because they're shy in general. So having them not be able to answer a question yes or no, or having really to talk through them to get them to respond to you may be a way to deal with them. Another one we might find in our 4-H kids is the indecisive child or the indecisive leader who just can't make a decision. They are procrastinators. They're going to put everything off to the last minute. And then when it happens, then we can't get anything done because they've waited so long. They also may try for perfection, which doesn't help any either because they put it up to the last minute and they try to be perfect and it never works out. So give them ranks of what's important. Like, I really need you to get this done first for me, and then try not to worry about the things at the end. Give them support. Say, yep, you can do this. You're going to do great. You're going to be perfect, because they need that reassurance. And they need experience they need to experience success. So if you can give them small tasks that they can be really good at, they may become less indecisive. Then the hostile or aggressive, and we find this, sadly, we do find this a lot in the 4-H program, and they're the ones that probably are the hardest for us to deal with, because what do you do with a leader that's in your face screaming at you? That's because they need to demonstrate they're always correct. They can't reason and don't like people who don't share their beliefs. They have a strong sense of what is best and what's not, and they're going to demean others because that's how they gain, once again, talk about the pork, but that's how they're going to gain control of the situation and of what's going on. So it's important not to surprise this person, because then they're just going to react by being angry. Give them time to either cool off or run down. Providing agendas to these people is really important. And don't engage in being aggressive back, because that's just going to fuel their fire. So you may take them outside and let them scream and yell. Always take another person with you. And then I would never engage this person and try to fix the problems right at the beginning. You probably want to wait a while, maybe call them later or meet with them over coffee a couple of days later, because they're going to need time to calm down. And so I think the key here when you deal with a hostile person in your 4-H program is not to engage. Really just kind of let them get off their chest and then talk with them when they've had time to calm down and are way less aggressive. Of course, this behavior is never something we want or tolerated, but I think it happens. And so knowing how to deal with it, I think, is important. Don't become hostile and aggressive back, because that's just going to make things worse. And then the last one is we have the know-it-all expert. Sheldon reminded me of that from The Big Bang Theory. If you've ever watched that, he's a little bit too much to handle. They want you to believe that they know everything. They can be condescending, and they may work at defeating your self-esteem. So what do we do with them? If you're going to work with them on something, know your homework about this subject or where you can find resources, because otherwise, then you can show that you know just as much or more than they do. Listen to them, but you don't have to agree with them. And then avoid being a counter expert, because then that's just going to fuel their fire to be more aggressive also. And I think it's also super important for all of us to remember that sometimes we're all those people in the situation. We may be the negative person. We may be the know-it-all. We may be the aggressor. So as conflict arises in your 4-H program, step back a little bit and say, what role am I playing in the negativity that's coming out? And what can I do to fix myself and my attitude that I bring to the table to make sure that I'm not the difficult person and that I can help to maybe calm things down and not be that one of those people. So just in the end, it's important to be prepared to head off conflict. Set the expectations you have for things early. If you have a 4-H project meeting, club meeting, what do you want to accomplish? What do you want to get done? And how are you going to work to achieve that? Be prepared. Look for warning signs. If you know that there's a parent who's going to get really upset about an issue that's brought up, maybe call them ahead of time and talk to them about it so that they know what's going to happen. Just prepare for those things to happen so that we don't have the parents screaming in the middle of the meeting. Maybe we can say, don't come to this meeting. We're going to talk about this, and I know it's not going to make you very happy, so let's have a talk about what the results are afterwards. Or this is what we're going to do at the meeting, and I just want to give you a heads up. How are you feeling about this? Let's talk through it before it happens. As a leader, as a volunteer, as an adult, your job is to stay in control. So make sure that you're the one who's in control. When people start screaming, that's when you maybe have someone usher them outside or take them to a different location. So we're not yelling in front of the kids, and that we really just have a way to keep things on task and not derail things. Always stay positive, smiling, happy. That's the hardest one because I think for most of us, nobody loves conflict. If you do, that's awesome. I haven't met that person yet. So I think for some of us, we tend to give in to some of the conflict that's happening because it just kind of throws us off balance. So think of a way to keep a positive attitude. And one of those ways for a lot of us is maintaining a sense of humor. So just smiling and laughing and kind of keeping things rolling in a lighthearted way is great. And understand that what's the root of the conflict? Is it really the decision we're making, or is there a much bigger picture that's going into this? A lot of you know your families really well, so you know what may be causing that conflict. Always think win-win. How can you make the most people happy and kind of walk away with people not being angry? This is a hard one too, is how do we eliminate the emotions from the situation? How do we get our own feelings out of it and really focus on the facts? And then also concentrating on what you can control. Are there certain aspects of the conflict that you can actually fix? And what can we do to do that think win-win? Or are there things that you just can't, and then we need to look at a different way to deal with that? And I think in conflict in general and all of this in 4-H, whatever, I think the biggest thing to remember is that you have a lot of people you can ask for help. You can ask fellow leaders in your program, and if that doesn't work, remember that you have a 4-H educator who probably doesn't like conflict either. We have very caring and compassionate people who tend to take those jobs, so they don't normally like conflict, but they're going to know where to go and what to do if we do run into problems. And if we can't work together, they're going to help find people who can come in and help you with solutions. I think I've gone to a couple of counties now where I've actually had a chance to maybe help to facilitate some conflict resolution and help them think about win-win. So there are people at the state 4-H office and other counties that can come in and help facilitate those discussions for you. So don't feel like you're on an island by yourself. Our goal is to do the best we can to help you control the situation and head off the conflict in the beginning. So if you think it's coming or you know it's there already, please feel free to send an email, a phone call, whatever, to your 4-H educator or here to myself, the state 4-H office, if it's volunteer related. And we can look at ways to implement some of the things that we talked about this evening, or to maybe look at new things because these aren't going to work with the conflict that you have, so that we can have zero conflict to happen at all, or we can minimize the conflict that is going to happen before it does. So that's all I have for this evening. Just going to click to the next slide. It's blank. So I think the thing I would say is if you have any questions or you want to share some personal experiences, feel free to use the chat box or to talk. But also be sure to write your name and your county in the chat box so I can give you credit for this. I don't know that anybody's done that yet. I haven't seen any chats come through. So be sure that you write your first name and your last name in the chat box along with your county. If you can't find the chat box, just scroll to the bottom of your screen, move over, and there'll be a 3 dots that say more, and then there's chat. So you can write any questions you have, any conflicts you have, and say that you can write your last name too. And then we can work to deal with those. Oh, that you're from Campbell County, Sadie, so thank you. I'm going to stop recording this now.